Hyper-independence does not begin as confidence. It begins as adaptation. There was a moment, or many small moments, when relying on someone felt unsafe, a promise that shifted, an emotion that was dismissed, a need that was met with irritation. The nervous system records these experiences without debate. It does not analyze intention. It does not search for nuance. It draws a simple conclusion. Depending on others increases risk. From that point forward, self-reliance becomes regulation. You learn to anticipate your own needs, to solve before asking, to carry before reaching. At first, it feels empowering. You are capable, efficient, unburdened by expectation. No one can disappoint you if no one is required. But the strength is tense. It is maintained through vigilance. You double-check. You over-prepare. You mentally rehearse independence in every scenario. Not because you love control, because control feels stable. Hyper-independence is often misread as emotional maturity. You do not demand. You do not cling. You do not rely. But underneath the composure is avoidance. Avoidance of uncertainty, avoidance of potential rejection, avoidance of feeling exposed. To need someone is to give them leverage. Leverage over your comfort, over your stability, over your sense of worth. If early experiences linked need with humiliation or abandonment, the body learns quickly. Do not need. Needing becomes synonymous with weakness, and weakness becomes intolerable. So you build competence. You become the one who figures things out, the one who does not complain, the one who handles it. Identity forms around capability. Capability feels safe. But safety built on isolation is rigid. It does not bend. It does not share weight. It absorbs. Over time, this rigidity becomes invisible. You no longer notice the distance you maintain. You call it independence, standards, strength. But watch the internal response when someone offers help. There is discomfort, subtle irritation, a reflexive, "I've got it." Help feels intrusive, not because it is, but because it challenges the rule that kept you stable. Do not rely. The illusion of strength is convincing. You function, you achieve, you rarely collapse. But the system is organized around prevention. Prevent disappointment, prevent dependency, prevent exposure. And when strength is built to prevent vulnerability, connection begins to feel like risk. Not because others are dangerous, but because closeness requires loosening control. And control is the architecture of your safety. Dependency is neutral, but your body may not experience it that way. To depend on someone is to place something valuable outside your control. Time, care, emotional stability. If early experiences taught you that what you placed outside yourself was mishandled, dependency becomes threat. The nervous system does not remember stories. It remembers sensations. Waiting, uncertainty, disappointment, embarrassment for needing too much. Those sensations fuse with one conclusion. Needing creates vulnerability. Vulnerability creates risk. So the system updates its strategy. Eliminate the variable. Do it yourself. This is not arrogance. It is containment. When you contain your needs, you contain potential harm. No waiting, no hoping, no negotiating, just execution. But dependency is not only logistical, it is emotional. To rely on someone emotionally means allowing them to see you unsettled, unsure, incomplete. That exposure can feel destabilizing. If you were once dismissed for your feelings, or told you were too sensitive, or made to feel dramatic for wanting reassurance, your body learned something precise. Your needs are inconvenient. Inconvenience threatens connection, so minimize the need. Better to appear self-contained than risk being seen as excessive. Over time, this minimization becomes automatic. You downplay discomfort. You self-soothe before asking. You rationalize neglect. It's fine. I can handle it. It's not a big deal. The language sounds mature, but the motivation is defensive, because asking requires tolerating two possibilities. They might respond, or they might not. That uncertainty activates the original threat memory. Hyper-independence narrows the range of exposure. If you never lean, you never have to feel the drop. If you never request reassurance, you never have to feel the silence. Dependency is not experienced as closeness. It is experienced as loss of control, and control, for you, is synonymous with safety. This is why relationships can feel subtly uncomfortable, not chaotic, not dramatic, just tense around reliance. Someone offers support, and part of you withdraws. Someone asks what you need, and your mind goes blank. Need feels foreign, because the system was built around not having one. Dependency threatens the architecture. It suggests you are not fully self-sufficient, not fully armored, and that suggestion alone can feel like danger. So you strengthen the armor, even when no one is attacking. If this helped you notice something about your own mind, consider liking the video and subscribing. More of this is coming. Hyper-independence is not about avoiding people. It is about avoiding unpredictability. When you control the task, you control the outcome. When you control the schedule, you control the disappointment. When you control your emotions, you control the exposure. Control becomes an organizing principle. Not loudly, not aggressively, quietly. You answer your own questions before asking. You solve your own problems before sharing. You absorb your own stress before expressing. This looks stable from the outside, but internally, it is labor. Because control requires constant monitoring. What do I need? What could go wrong? How do I prevent reliance? Emotional armor is not rigid on the surface. It is invisible. You may appear calm, composed, even generous, but you rarely let anyone carry weight for you. If someone offers help, you instinctively calculate. Will this create obligation? Will this shift power? Will this expose weakness? Help feels like surrender, not because it is, but because surrender once meant vulnerability without protection. Hyper-independence strengthens through reinforcement. Every time you handle something alone, the system records success. You survived, you managed, you avoided risk. Success strengthens the armor. Over time, competence fuses with identity. You become the capable one, the reliable one, the one who never needs rescuing. Needing becomes incompatible with who you believe you are. But armor has consequences. It prevents injury. It also prevents closeness. Connection requires asymmetry. There are moments when one person leans and the other steadies. Hyper-independence resists leaning, because leaning activates memory. Not conscious memory, body memory. The sensation of being unsupported, the echo of not being met. So you compensate. You offer support easily. You listen. You advise. You hold space. Giving feels controlled. Receiving feels exposed. This imbalance is rarely intentional. It is regulatory. If you are the strong one, you do not have to risk being the fragile one. If you are the provider, you do not have to risk being the one who asks. Control becomes emotional insulation. It reduces volatility. It reduces dependency. It reduces the probability of disappointment, but it also reduces spontaneity. You hesitate before sharing fear. You filter sadness before expressing it. You translate vulnerability into problem-solving. Feelings become tasks. Needs become logistics. Intimacy becomes efficiency. Eventually, the armor becomes automatic. You do not experience it as defense. You experience it as personality. I'm just independent. I don't like relying on people. I work better alone. The language sounds strong, and in many ways it is. But strength built entirely on self-containment is solitary by design. There is a subtle tension underneath it, a quiet exhaustion from carrying everything internally. You rarely collapse, but you rarely soften. And without softening, no one can fully reach you, not because you are distant, because control is still protecting something that once felt unprotected. Armor is useful, but when it never comes off, it stops being protection. It becomes isolation. Hyper-independence feels powerful, until you notice how alone it makes you. At first, the strategy works. You avoid disappointment. You avoid depending. You avoid the subtle humiliation of unmet needs. You remain composed, self-sufficient, in control. But connection does not deepen through control. It deepens through exposure. And exposure is precisely what the system was built to prevent. When someone tries to move closer, something in you tightens, not visibly, internally. A hesitation before sharing something personal, a deflection when asked what you need, a reflexive, "I'm fine." You may want intimacy, but you do not want to rely. And intimacy without reliance stays shallow. Hyperindependence creates a paradox. You become highly capable, yet emotionally unreachable. You offer stability, yet resist leaning. You appear strong, yet feel unseen. Because no one can respond to needs that are never revealed. Over time, this becomes isolating, not dramatically, subtly. You are surrounded by people, but internally separate. The system still equates dependence with danger, so even when someone proves consistent, your body remains guarded. Consistency feels unfamiliar. Familiarity feels safer, and familiarity was self-reliance. There comes a moment, often quiet, when the armor begins to feel heavy. You notice the exhaustion of carrying everything alone. You notice that competence has replaced closeness. You notice that no one truly knows what unsettles you. Strength protected you, but it also concealed you. Letting someone support you does not erase your capability. It destabilizes the rule that kept you safe. That is why it feels risky. Not because you are weak, because you are changing the structure. To allow dependence in measured ways is to retrain the nervous system. To experience support without collapse, to ask without humiliation, to lean without falling. Hyper-independence dissolves slowly, not through force, not through surrender, through repetition of safe connection. The body learns. Needing does not always lead to loss. Vulnerability does not always lead to shame. Control is not the only path to stability. Strength does not disappear when you rely. It reorganizes, less rigid, less solitary, more relational. The defense was intelligent. It kept you intact. But what once preserved you may now be limiting you. If this exposed something you recognize in yourself, consider liking the video and subscribing.